Welcome everyone to Culture Connect, Intense and Purple Stardust podcast on culture, entertainment, marketing, and trends. On the first episode today is Gracey Mae. Gracey is the number one female afrobeats host. She presents Afrobeats Weekly on Westside Radio and also writes as an African music columnist for F World Magazine and Trade World. She writes and curates playlists on Apple Music and Spotify. Gracey's an A&R publicist and consultant via her global firm, Mae. She's talent manager for Bella Schmurda and Oxlade. Welcome, Gracey.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So, Culture Connect is a podcast that dissects entertainment, pop culture, and trends, and how they play a role in marketing. And my name is Leye Makanjuola, CEO of Intense, owners of Culture Connect. Intense is a global agency present in Africa, Lagos, Nigeria, and also the UK. In the UK, we're focused on connecting brands with African audiences and Africans in diaspora. And this podcast is one of the ways, that we show people, that it takes a different language, it takes a different speak to connect with Africans and diaspora using culture like music, movies, and just everyday social media trends. So again, you're welcome and enjoy the ride. So, Gracey, we're just gonna, dive right into it, right? You're an Afrobeats host. You have interviewed over 260 different artists. Your resume is deep. Tell us about, how you got into music and marketing, and how you have this long, profile and rap sheet, including, being, one of the people on the Grammys, the Academy Awards.
Yeah, so my story is quite convoluted. My background is actually law. So I'm a lawyer by profession. When I was in uni, I started making YouTube videos, and I was discovered by a radio station via those videos. My radio career then spiraled into wider entertainment journalism, where I was scouted to do African music pieces, features, and interviews on different magazines. And then from there, it kind of spun into my publicity career, because I was meeting lots of artists that were coming to me and saying, "Hey Gracey, you're one of the only platforms that I'll visit when I go to the UK. Who else can I connect with while I'm in town? Who else can I see in Europe?" And it was a really simple connect because I had a lot of these colleagues already in broadcasting and in print, so I was able to connect these artists with the media houses. And my publicity journey, I guess, organically started from there. We're now a global firm as well, so we have a team in Lagos, we have a team in London, and It really has just been a beautiful journey from the publicity as well, given that I'm a bit of a bookworm. I really got invested into the wider aspects of what publicity really means, how is it different from marketing. At the same time, I had one foot in data marketing and big data, and I was looking at insights and analytics before it was a thing. And 9 years later, here I am as a member of the Grammys, the Brits, the BETs, and the MOBO Academies, and one of 10 people that rallied and championed actually having our own awards at the Grammys. So the fact that we've been able to launch it as of last year, and we had our first winner with Tyler in February, was amazing. Many more to come.
Wow, you're actually really a power player. So if you didn't give me that background, I wouldn't know all the things that you've done. What we have on paper and on the internet doesn't do you justice. So the culture is super proud of you. And the fact that you're into data and marketing means that we would like you to work with us at some point. Tell us what you know. Tell us
Definitely.
What you know about what people respond to, the kind of content that people like, what makes people act, brands that people like as well. But I'm sure we can get into that much later after this podcast. So again, about our topic is music and marketing, which is two peas in a pod. They're basically side by side. Traditionally, agencies like Translation in the US have used music to move consumers towards brands for a long time. Steve Stout was one of the co-founders of Translation, and he was able to basically launch a lot of campaigns for brands like Nike, using pop icons, like Kobe, even like with the Beats by Dre campaign, with Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine. So it's not new that music has played a major part in marketing that causes consumers to go to stores and buy things, make things cool, make things trendy. So it begs the question, which comes first? Is it the music, that influences the marketing and the brands, or is it the brands that influences the music? So my question to you really is, how does music have the ability to shape how we perceive brands and products? Is there a way that you can shed light on that, and probably give me an example, give the audience an example of how you can use music to shape perception and make consumers behave a certain way?
So it's such an interesting question. Traditionally, when we look at marketing, we look at what you would call the target audience or the target demographic. Now, if you've done any kind of ads on Meta or any type of basic social media campaign, you'll know that includes selecting an age range, selecting their nationality or their region or locality. It might also include adding their interests. And what you're able to do when you then look at music and you're looking at brands, you're looking at campaigns, is you're looking at who are we targeting. So one of the amazing examples I always like to use is Apple versus Samsung. A lot of people will go with Apple products regardless of whether they're 5 generations behind Samsung, because on one side you've got the UX and the UI that is super intuitive. If you've never picked up an iPhone before, if you've interacted with an Apple product at any time in your life, it's quite easy to use. But the other part of it is like status, is culture. It's a reflection of what Apple means to people. So when you see someone with an iPhone, you assume that they are of a certain class, a certain caliber, a certain income status. And that's exactly the same thing when it comes to music. When big brands are trying to either rebrand themselves or define their status in the market, or if they're trying to connect with a new target audience, they will often use music that reflects that. One of the most iconic adverts ever was the Cadbury's advert that dropped 16 years ago. And you have a man in a gorilla suit doing a drum solo to Phil Collins in the air. Now, a lot of the execs, if you've ever heard the story, were like, this is not going to work. It's too satirical, it's too theatrical, or whatever the feedback was. And honestly, they couldn't have got it more wrong. That video has been uploaded onto YouTube by someone else who's not Cadbury's, and it's already on like 11 million views. At the time, it was the highest viewed advert. They even had to release the extended version, which I think was 10 minutes, even though the one that made it to air was about a minute. And even at the minute mark, people were saying like, it's too long, it's not going to work, and people aren't going to relate to it. But what they forgot was the sentiment of that song. It's a classic, and when you listen to the track, you remember exactly where you were when you first heard it, whether you were with your parents, your grandparents, in a store, maybe it's in your favorite movie. It really evokes a sentimental reaction, an emotive reaction. And when you look at people as people and not just numbers in a demographic pool or in your target audience, you're really able to figure out what you can apply that will speak to their hearts and not just their minds. I think marketing is a lot about repetition, repeating the information over and over again, whether it's like visual cues, whether it's audio cues. And actually what you find is when you do adverts like this, where you are pulling on heartstrings, you're reminding the viewer and the listener of something that matters most to them, and then you're pushing chocolate, like it's a win-win, honestly. And I don't think we've had an advert quite like it, where the focus is just the music, the drum solo of the music, especially when you think that without that advert, people already do the drum solo on their air drums. It's something that everybody can relate to. Yeah, I would really say that if you haven't seen the advert, check it out. And it really was one of the most powerful campaigns and adverts that we've seen, especially because it's completely unrelated to the chocolate. You have the man in the gorilla suit playing the drums for the 50 seconds, and then the last 10 seconds is a screen that says Cadbury's chocolate, or like I think it says half full, which I think was the tagline of Cadbury. So yeah, and another way or a key example of showing how music can really position a brand and push conversion to sales for any product when you tap into the sentiment and the heart of the audience.
This example was about the music, right? But not about the artist. I know the song In the Air. It actually features in one of my favorite movies of all time, Paid in Full. And I think, when they started playing, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. It was a scene where you had Cameron, Mekhi Phifer, they were in the club throwing money in the air. It was just one of like the best parts of the movie that showed that they made it. So it's interesting to see that that song has been used in many ways to just drive emotion. But like I said, it's the song that they used. In what instances do brands use the artists themselves and their persona to drive marketing and to drive trust or likability for their brands? And how do they make the choice of who to use?
So I think the most basic example I can give you is brand ambassadorship and product placement. So when we look at brand ambassadors, these are people that sign into 12-month, 18-month, 2-year deals where they become the face of the product. If I speak about Nigeria specifically, DJ Spinall was one of the first DJs to get brand deals in Nigeria. He's the face of Pepsi and the face of Budweiser. We've had artists like Cuppy become the face of Tiger, become the face of Maybelline. I started with the DJs because I think a lot of people think it is reserved for, the top tier Nollywood artists or the top tier music artists. But actually, if you have a presence and you have a following, you can become a brand ambassador or become or enter into a brand partnership deal. There was a time actually, I think in 2022, when both Fireboy and Rema were the faces of Monster, the energy drink. And when these brands are looking at who they would like to represent them, they look at so many things apart from just their numbers. They're also looking at their lifestyle. If you have the face of your brand misstep, misspeak, misquote, it could do anything from ruining the reputation of your brand all the way to having like financial consequences where it could actually like reduce the stock share the stock price and the market share. So I think there's so many things that they look at, but obviously most importantly they're looking at conversion. If you have an artist that says all I do every day is drink Monster when I wake up, when I have breakfast, when I have dinner, and they have an impressionable audience, that audience is more likely to convert because they are super fans of the artist that they are looking at, and they want to emulate and copy what that artist is doing. And we've seen that not just in like the drink space, but a lot of afrobeats and African musicians will do things like sport bets. There's a lot of gambling endorsement deals that we see because there's a lot of money there. We have people like Davido, who's famously the face of Martell in Africa. He actually was the first African ambassador for Martell, and Martell saw a huge spike in demand in the clubs and in bars, restaurants and lounges because of David's representation of the brand. So there is very close synergy between looking at the artist, looking at their following, and it's really, really important to make this point. Sometimes when we do campaigns, we have different objectives. Some of it is to convert, so turning those eyes into purchasers. So that could be streaming, that could be buying, that could be anything else. And others are just brand awareness campaign. So that means if the brand is new to the market, if the brand doesn't really have a presence in the market, they might just use an artist to raise awareness and raise visibility so that people become aware that this brand or this product is an option. It doesn't always necessarily have to lead to conversion. When we think about marketing, we traditionally say that there are 8 steps in the adoption ladder. 0 is I've never heard of you, I don't know you exist. And then step 8 is like, I'm a fan, I'm an expert, I'm even recommending other people. And then somewhere in between we have, I've heard of you, but I've not tried you, or I've tried you, but I'm not loyal. And so by having artists become the face of these brands, they move people up the ladder from one step to another and along that adoption chain.
Awesome. So I wanted you to touch on a few examples where maybe African artists were actually used by global brands, which you mentioned, I think, One Copy and maybe Line, especially because, Intense is an agency in the UK, and we want to show that regardless of, where people are, you can penetrate markets because brands, want to use you to get to people that are like you or that are influenced by you. And the UK is a big afrobeats market. I would say it's probably top 3 and it's not 2, so it's probably 1 or 3. Yeah. So we're trying to understand, how do people in music, and like you said, it's not just artists, it could be DJs as well. How do you position yourself? How do you make yourself attractive to brands? And how can those brands use you? I know that Davido had the Puma deal, and Wizkid had a Nike collaboration with the jerseys, and he also had the Puma deal as well. What made Wiz and David attractive to these global brands, where they thought that using them as ambassadors or giving them endorsements will help them move their product?
So that answer is tricky, but I'll simplify it. And I love that you started with Wiz and David. I can also speak about Burna Boy being the face of the Burberry Christmas campaign, or Tyler doing a campaign with Gap. What they're looking for is what clout, what traction, and what market do you have in that locality. So Burberry is a traditional British fashion brand, and the reason why they could work with an artist like Burna Boy is because they've looked at his analytics and they said, okay, out of the 16 million followers he has, and I've just pulled that number from the air, at least a quarter of them are from England. And if their target audience is penetrating the youth in England, and that they see that of the English or the British percentage, more than half are like 18 to 25. If they look at that and say, okay, well, my target audience is 18 to 25, it makes sense for Burna to be the face. What you'll find is that a lot of artists, whether they're acting, singers, comedians, whatever, even if they have large numbers, the brands might not necessarily work with them if their target audience doesn't align with the artist's current audience. So you might have somebody like, let's say, Osas, beautiful, love her. She's on, I think, 1.5 or maybe 2 million followers. If anyone is looking at the back end, then there's so many apps that you can use that will tell you the engagement rate of this page, the demographic of this page. If the demographic doesn't fit the target audience of the brand, then it's less likely that that brand will work with them. Regardless of how cool Nollywood is, regardless of how cool Afrobeats is, the cool element is one aspect. Cool usually translates to relevant, but it's relevancy in a specific market.
Definitely. I mean, it's all about the consumer, the product and the company. And then when you put the influencer in the middle of that, it has to connect. I need to add also that people like Burna can be seen as fashionable or fashion forward leaders. I think the last Burberry show had Burna, Thames, Wiz, Skepta, Rema, and these people.
Oh, that was actually Louis Vuitton at Paris Fashion Week.
No, but there was a Burberry one that had Burna, that had Thames, that had Wiz, and Skepta. Skepta is a big Burberry. He's been doing stuff for Burberry for a while now. So basically, people will look at a Skepta or a Burna and want to dress like them. So it makes sense that Burberry would say, Burna, come wear our stuff, come style our clothes, and then people look at Burna and be like, I want to be like Burna. Let me go cop some Burberry fits. Let me style it like Burna, and you could get thousands of new customers that way. And for me personally, I haven't been looking at Burberry in a while, but I feel like that fashion show just made me think about it again. Like, maybe some checks for me, you know. But I guess it works. Let's talk about you again. You know, let's bring it back to you. Let's shine the spotlight on you. You do A&R and talent management. How has that been? And you know, how have you been able to use your knowledge of marketing and music and pop culture to be able to move these artists from where they are to where they want to be?
So being a talent manager and an A&R is amazing. I'm a musician. Like, I play keys, I read music. I did piano grades, so I'm like a classically trained pianist.
Didn't you tell me you read law?
I did read law, but before that, like in secondary school, I was in music school. I was in performing arts school, so I had
sort of.
Well, you know, not all heroes wear capes. What can I say? But I'm a musician. Thank you. I need one. So being able to not just do the music business of it, but to also be in the music creation is amazing. And you know, as an A&R, your title is artist and repertoire. So it's all about artist development. It's looking at that artist sound as they are now, and we call that the as is state, and then building out what is the to be state, so where they would like to be, and then taking them on that journey from where they are to where they need to be. So that can be things like creating writing camps, connecting artists with producers, songwriters, connecting them with people that do like ad-libs and top lines. That might also be things like features, but it's also the critique of when you're doing live shows, position yourself like this. You know, go to singing school, go to movement coach. It's all about developing the artist, their sound and their catalogue. That's the A&R side of it. And then the talent management side is all about exploiting positive opportunities. So for Bella and for Ox, I look after them outside of Africa. I look specifically for international collaborations and opportunities. And that's anything from connecting them with the right booking agents, because I'm not a booking agent myself, who will get them on some of these international festivals, to looking at the brand deals that we just spoke about, but also looking after their international reputation. Going back to my core as a publicist, everything I do is around media and brand journalism, reputation management, and media relations. And so being able to have those connects at the platforms means that I'm on top of what's relevant, what stations and media houses to interact with, if you'd like a certain trajectory, which platforms have the audience for different songs. So yeah, I think it's one step to make great music. But if nobody hears it, then you're doing it for the love of the music and not for the love of the business of it. And being able to, you know, straddle both sides means that I'm able to be sentimental but also be objective, to make sure that I'm able to exploit the right positive opportunities for everyone I work with. And so far it's been amazing. On strictly the publicity angle, my biggest client to date has been Bob Marley, and to be able to say that is even insane. But
wait, how
yeah,
how's Bob
I knew
Marley
you were
the
going to say
client?
that. So last year
from the grave.
Yeah, so his catalogue is owned by his family and by Island Records. And last year he produced, or his family produced an album that remixed some of his classics with key players within the afrobeat scene. So on that project, we had Sarkodie, we had Rema, we had Tenny, we had Oxlade, and a whole host of others. And the term we were using is Bob Marley's classics reimagined. And so one, it was really beautiful to see a lot of the oldies vibing to songs that they know and love, but it also meant that Bob Marley was introduced to a whole new market that was able to say, okay, that's not just a song that my grandparents like or my parents like, but it's also now a song that I like too. So yeah, by being able to do like global campaigns like that, it means that I'm also learning how different market operates, and I'm able to then use that knowledge to make my business better, but to also make my clients better too.
Fantastic! Congratulations on such a big collaboration. Fun fact: I wanted to be an A&R when I was much younger, but I needed money, so I ditched that. But I mean, you're the perfect example of showing that you can make a living from what you love. And I hope I can live through you someday. So I did think that A&R people helped you choose your singles, and basically let you know these are the songs that they feel would do well. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's one element of it. So in a writing camp over, let's say, a week or 2 weeks, you can create upwards of 20 to 50 songs, depending on how quick you are as an artist and whether you're in that session to like write word for word, or whether you're just trying to get melody lines. And an A&R will come and say, okay, well, this is where you are, this is where you want to be, these are the songs that fit where you want to be. Sometimes you have like transitional stages where you have to like seed a couple of songs, because doing a whole 180 on your audience means that you might lose some of them. So sometimes, in fact most times, the process is gradual and you do like a change in sound or a pivot over a couple of projects. If we talk about Wizkid, a lot of people said that Sounds from the Other Side was that pivot album for him, where he transitioned from superstar and was moving more towards Made in Lagos. And the success of that project was very 50-50. People have come back later to say, oh, that was like an amazing project, but at the time Nigeria was like, oh, this is too foreign,
that's trash.
Right? And UK and US were like, oh, that's a bit too African. And sometimes it takes a project or two to get to that
get
that
it
sound.
right.
But yeah, you're right. A&Rs do help select songs as part of that journey that I've mentioned, in terms of establishing where they are, defining where they want to be, and moving them along that kind of roadmap.
Okay, I'd like to hear one of your stories about how you were able to, make a collaboration with one of your artists that you manage, and a brand. How were you able to use your marketing knowledge and, all of your experience in law, music, to make this happen? The artist is usually just there making their music, and then the light bulb comes on and you say, you know what? This brand will be fantastic for you based on what you've done, what you've said, what people are saying about you. Can you give me an example of, one of your best stories that probably even like surprised you yourself?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to brand collaborations, it's half and half in terms of brands reaching out to you and you pitching to them if you think that the person or the talent that you're representing fits them. And so there's quite a few stories that I could share. A lot are under NDA, so I'm trying to search my brain to see what I can share. But I think maybe the easiest one, if we step away from brands to artists and maybe artist to artist, Bella Shmurda woke up one day and was like, Gracey, I want to work with Nasty C. And I was just like, I don't from where to where? Like, what is this request? And he was just like,
isn't it?
yeah. And like, the Bella I know and love isn't necessarily a rap head. So I was just like, I don't get it. But I know that Runtown is one of Bella's like idols, and one of the people that actually really broke Bella out in the early stages of his career. And when he said it once, I was like, okay. When he said it twice, I was like, okay. When he said it like 5 or 10 times, I was like, you don't do. It's fine. I've heard you. Let's make it happen. But anyway, that's a long story short. I was able to make a call or two. We were able to get the track over to Nasty. He loved the song. I think he actually ended up recording 2 verses for 2 different songs. And we ended up with the Philo remix. So Philo originally was Bella Shmurda and Omade. And then we were able to produce the Philo remix with Bella Shmurda, Omale, and Nasty C. And that song did pretty well. So yeah, that's an example of just being able to use your network. I think with the artists that I work with quite closely, there's been so many collabs that have come out, that haven't come out, that are still coming out. So I can't say too much, but I would say that network really is net worth. One of the things about being in music in general, regardless of whether it's marketing, PR, A&R, tour management, talent management, or anything else that I do, is being a people's person and network. And off cam we were speaking about likability and liability, and you're not always going to be a nice person, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a good person. And I think sometimes, especially when you're the mouthpiece for the artist, or maybe someone is running late, or maybe we're having to cancel something, in that moment you're not nice. If people can see the value and they see that there's an equal value exchange and it's symbiotic, they're gaining from you, you're gaining from them, then they're able to see that past all of the niceties, you are a good person to work with and you're a good person in general. And that really does open lots of doors.
Amazing. I mean, yeah, the NDA wouldn't let you tell us a lot of things, but maybe you can tell us about, the bag, the money. What's the biggest amount? What's the biggest amount that an artist associated with you has been paid for a brand collaboration?
Okay, what I can say is the
Wow,
biggest
come on now.
deal, the
It's
biggest
just a
deal
number.
that I've
You don't
been
need to mention the artist.
associated with, and I would never
Yeah.
mention the artist, but the biggest deal that I've been associated with was an advance for a deal. I'll leave it at that, and that was $750,000 upfront.
Oh, okay. Those are big numbers. And it was
But,
just advance.
Yeah, and that wasn't the full amount. But there are other deals that I do with like actual major brands. So in the past, I've worked with Samsung, with Sony, with Unilever, with Boots, with Premier Inn, and those are multi-million pound contracts. So yeah, the spectrum is quite wide. We're at a place now where even some of the artists that we see on the top 10 charts, their fees for shows are 100k, 150k. Some of the names that we've even mentioned during our chat together are charging 400k, half a million, a million. So I think once an artist is able to prove their value, prove their worth, they're really able to get not just what they deserve but what they negotiate.
Definitely, sky's the limit. So for all the artists, out there listening, there's a lot that you can do, on the brand side. There are artists that what they do is make commercials. I know Pusha T, made the "I'm Loving It" jingle. I know people like Currency and a few other people actually make their money more from working and producing from brands, collaborating with brands. So it just lets you know that there's a big business side when it comes to music and brands, and it doesn't have to be just one stream of income.
So we can actually unpack that specifically. So that's a whole discipline, very independent from A&R. It kind of falls under publishing. It's called synchronization and licensing, often called sync and licensing. And that is the discipline of placing your music in TV, on radio, and in movies. And there's two main ways this happens. Let's say a film will create a brief that says, okay, we need a song that is 96 beats per minute, which has strings for a club scene, and the publisher or the person in charge of the sync will then send songs from the artist that they're looking after that they believe fulfill the brief. Then it's down to the film to decide whether it does or it doesn't, and then that's how that gets picked up. You will see this for things like driving scenes, for, like I said, club scenes, for shopping scenes, for bathing scenes, any scenes that require a soundscape that's not necessarily curated as part of like an original score. And so there's lots and lots of money. There are so many artists in the UK and the US that you will never see on charts, but are regularly taking £20,000, £30,000, £40,000 home a month just from doing multiple sync deals. One of the artists I've worked with actually had a sync deal with YouTube, and this was a couple of years back now. And I think that deal, like for 30 seconds of the song, he was able to get like $20,000. So yeah, it's a very lucrative industry, and I'm praying and hoping that as Nollywood continues to garner these international deals with platforms like Amazon Prime and Netflix, that we'll be able to replicate the lucrativeness of that model on the continent. A lot of usage of music now on shows and in TV and on films are done with like gentleman's agreement or like a one-time fee, as opposed to like
That's a
proper
big loss,
licensing and
royalties,
exactly,
and just perpetual payments because
lack of funding, lack of structure, lack of understanding. There's so much, but yeah, I'm hoping that it comes our way and soon. And I will say though that if we flip it though, a lot of our artists are doing well internationally. So if we think about the Black Panther soundtrack, artists like Bloody Civilian,
Burner.
artists like Fireboy, artists like Burner Boy got paid
Thames.
exactly what they should have. Yeah, and Thames obviously was behind the leading single with Rihanna as part of the sync and licensing deals that Sony did. So shout out to Sony Publishing. They're doing amazing work. I'm hoping that the whole roster. Exactly. And for someone like Bloody Civilian, who was so early in her career at that point, and still is to an extent, I think she has more catalogue as a producer as opposed to a singer. But for her to get featured at that stage in her career was definitely a win for her and a win for all of us.
Definitely. I think that it's important for people to see music, and not just music, content as an asset. When you're thinking about wealth, sometimes I have to go into wealth, right? When you're thinking about wealth, people think about, I need to invest, I need to buy shares. When you buy shares, maybe in an index fund, it grows, right? You're trying to get passive income. But content, music, is just like that, because if it does well and it gets published in a movie or in an ad, you keep getting royalties off that asset, and it's made. You make it one time, but you keep getting money perpetually off that piece of content. And this goes, for other things as well. Even podcasts like this, you might have a viral episode, and somehow people keep watching that, and YouTube keeps paying you. So it's just important to understand how content can be an asset, apart from just trying to get streaming dollars from Apple or Spotify or platforms like that. Okay.
I'll say, sorry, just as the last point to that, your catalogue is really your pension fund. When you're falling out of grace or favour or relevancy or your prime time, your classic evergreen music is what is going to continue to make money for you.
To feed you.
So as you said, whether it's through streaming or whether, recently we had, I believe, was it The Hills Have Eyes? The song by Kate. Her last name has just escaped me. Kate B. Gosh. And I think she's British. She's pale skin, ginger hair. And she actually recently went number one because her song was placed on a series, and it's a song from the 80s, and the song did really well. It's gonna come back to me, I'll remember it. But again, just another example of the fact that she made the song 30 to 40 years ago, and she was able to go number one in the UK because of a sync placement in a series. So
Amazing.
Creating evergreen music truly is your pension, because I'm sure she never guessed that a song that she wrote all the way then would still be making money for her now. But that's the beauty of actually having a great A&R, a great pen, and a great song.
Definitely. And what you said about old music coming back also happens a lot on social media. TikTok can bring your song back from like 3 years, 5 years ago, because people are making a challenge of it. And artists are actually making music for TikTok and Instagram now. I would say that this song, what's the song by Darko? How do you pronounce her name? Darko, yeah. I would say that Favorite Girl song is really like an Instagram song. All the girlies, want to put, she's really my favorite girl. Only that part is all I've heard so far, right? But that song is so popular that, I'm sure she's making a lot of money off that song from platforms. I know TikTok pays, but I don't know how well they pay. But topic for another day.
They pay quite well, depending on your followership, your engagement, etc. But the Favorite Girl song specifically is a sample from Brick and Lace, Your Love Is Wicked. And so
she's gonna have to share that.
Yeah, that song is a classic, by the way. Your Love Is Wicked still pops up in the club. It's one of those, what can I even call it? Reggaeton inspired tracks.
Reggaeton, dancehall era. I remember where I was when those songs were jumping. But let me not show my age. I'm not going to put that timeline out there. Okay, tell me something you think only you believe.
Oh.
It's a tough one.
Something only I believe. Okay, well, something that I believe that's super controversial, I can go there, is I believe in strengthening your strengths and leaving your weaknesses. So a lot of people
I totally agree.
You need to be an
So it's not
all-rounder.
just
You
you.
should work on that. Yeah, okay, praise God. I'm in good company. But I really
It's
believe
not
that
just you.
in the workplace, in a team, in any discipline, people prefer to have a team of experts. So I'd rather know that I can rely on you for this and you for that and someone else for this than having one person that's an all-rounder. I think especially when we are in a digital age where you want to be known for a niche, you want to be able to provide a value, a guarantee, people need to know that they can rely on you for X. And I think if you have a team of experts that all have a vertical that they can be responsible for and they can contribute to and they can add value to, it's more beneficial to have a collaboration of minds than one person who is kind of mediocre at everything. I'd rather have one person
That's
like
super
myself
good at
that is
one
good
thing.
at one thing. And so, in as much as I've said, I'm an all-rounder. I have my hand in a lot of different pies. I think people primarily know me for my journalism and my publicity. It's until they have conversations or listen to conversations like this where they find out, okay, well, Gracey was behind this track, or Gracey did, I don't know, that tour. And I like it that way. I think I'm very good at what I'm very good at. And in my spare time, I like to build out some of my other skills. But I think, yeah, strengthening your strengths is the hack. And it means that one, you're able to collaborate more. And two, you're able to go a bit further. The saying is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together.
Far.
And so, yeah, I really believe in that.
Absolutely. I was talking to a talent coach lately, and she basically reinforced this. I could be very critical of myself, or try to be a perfectionist. So I sort of like leave the things I'm good at, and then I'm really trying to like fix things that I'm weak at. But you're weak at certain things for a reason, and you're better off just outsourcing those things, looking for people that can help you with those things. But then strengthening your strengths, will actually help you get way farther than most people, because you're just naturally gifted at those things. Cool. Let's help the brands. I'm sure there are instances where we've seen a brand, tap into pop culture or do a collaboration with an artist, and we just felt like, nah, that ain't it, man. This is not working. So, what advice do you have for the brands? Let's imagine a UK brand, for example. They wanna appeal to the Africans in diaspora. They want to appeal to the culture, young people, Gen Z. What should they be looking at? How should they make their choice? And what will the perfect way to bring all that together be?
So it's simple, but it's
Difficult
iterative
at the same time.
So I'll start with, what's your vision as a company, right? Everything that is good isn't good for you. So what's the vision? What's the long-term goal? Then break that down into your mission. What's like the action statement that you take from your vision? From that, you should be able to create your objectives. The objective is to penetrate this location within this demographic by this time. You need the objectives to be smart measured, right? So you have to have metrics. So it could be volume related, it should be time related, and you want to be able to say that by that fixed point, you either have or haven't achieved that objective. That's what we call success criteria. Once you've got your vision, your mission, your objectives, and your success scope, or KPIs, as the business acumen guys among us might say, then you will then define your scope. And when you have a scope, you will say all the things you will do and all the things you won't do. Within your scope, you'll be able to say, okay, if I'm trying to achieve X, these are the things that I'm assuming and these are the things that I'm dependent on. So you'd have an assumptions list and a dependency list. Off the back of that, you'll also highlight any risks and issues that will say, okay, this will put this campaign at risk, this will put this product at risk, this will put the business at risk. And then issues are risks that have actually materialized. So maybe you don't have as much funding as you thought, or maybe you don't have the availability of the artist that you thought, or maybe you don't have the final product in the timeline that you thought. So all of those are issues. The last few parts then are budget and timeline. And so, as I mentioned when I talked about objectives and success criteria / KPIs, if you're able to plot, this is what we want to do by month 1, month 3, month 6, month 12, 24 months, etc. You then have a roadmap, and it also relieves a bit of pressure, because then you're saying, okay, I might want, I don't know, Burna Boy to be the face of my hoodie today, but I don't have Burna Boy money. That's something I'm aiming for in 2 years. You know that you're stepping towards something. And then the last part So it is budget. So the best thing to do is to do market research, see what your competitors are doing. Yes, I believe everybody's unique. Nobody's like you, nobody's like me. But the best businessman looks at the market, studies the landscape, and avoids the pitfalls that others have made, but also leverages the success that others have made. And so there's no point in running to a brick wall. If somebody else has tried something and they haven't done it well, there are things that you can learn, there are things that you can build on. My example always is when we look at social media, right? For anyone who is as old as me, you might remember the start was like High Five, it was Bebo, it was MySpace. None of them are in use right now. Pixo was there as well. Then we had, exactly. At that time, we also had MSN, we had BBM Messenger. So
I was told about these things. I wasn't.
Of course, yeah, you have no idea about them. And then from there, we had like stage 2, which was the Facebooks and the Instagrams and Twitter. And then we're now in like the third phase where we've got the Snapchat, the TikTok, the video-driven content platforms. Exactly. And what you can see from each kind of generation of social media, whether they've been 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, because I think the oldest amongst them is probably hitting 20, is that the ones that came after learned from the failures of the ones from before. So Bebo, High Five, MySpace, they all had that community element, but the structuring of the content was weird. That's, we have the whole Reddit side of things as well, which is completely different, and Tumblr, which again was like that middle ground iteration of, okay, we know people want to see content, but we haven't really figured out the community aspect of it. And so each generation has kind of evolved from the previous. And I think if you apply the same logic and principle with brands trying to figure out who is the best person to interact with, or to use as the face, or to become, the ambassador for their product, is always looking at, okay, what have other brands done? What have they done well? What have they not done well? Does this person fully represent my brand, or do they fully represent a specific product? If we don't want them to do a long-term deal when it's like a 12-monther, could we just use them as the face of a specific campaign? There are so many ways to iterate this, but primarily it's, what is your vision? What do you want to be known for? What guarantees do you want to offer? And who can you work with that will validate that? A lot of times as well, as I mentioned with the Apple and Samsung comparison, sometimes the people you're working with are purely for brand validation, to confirm or to reiterate or to validate that you are who you say you are, and you are who you say you are in that market. And then other times you are using specific people to actually increase brand awareness. Other times it's to increase brand loyalty. So brand loyalty talks about retention. You have a base now. Are they loyal to you? Are they not? Do you have to create a loyalty scheme for them to stick around, or have they bought into the brand and the product? And then the very last part is product placement. Are you just using that artist or that talent for a specific campaign? So brand awareness, brand loyalty, product placement. Those are the 3 types of campaigns you should be looking at. And please make sure you're looking at your vision, your mission, your success criteria, your scope, your assumptions, your dependencies, your risks, your issues, your timeline, and your budget. And after you've done all of that, you should be in a great space to create a strategy that will outline which artists reinforce that and really bring that strategy to life.
Whoa, Gracey, I didn't mean that you should go into the brand's marketing team's office and give them a whole lecture. I just meant give them a few tips. You brought out the whole chalkboard and drew a roadmap. But yes, I think, for any brand people listening, thinking about your next collab with an artist to try and reach the culture, Gracey has just given you the roadmap. Very important. Write that down. Take notes. Okay. Let us play a game. You ready to play a game?
I'm good. All right. I'm ready. Let's go.
We're gonna test your knowledge of, of artists. You're supposed to be very close. You told me your network is your net worth. So
I did.
How many of these people do you know by their government names?
Quite a few, actually. I love researching artists, and I'm so nosy. I will find out their height, their weight, their sister's name. So I'm usually pretty good, but let's test it. Let's see.
Okay, so I'm going to mention a few government names, and you're going to tell me who, the music, the artist name of these people.
Go easy on me.
Number 1, Damilola Afolabi.
Hold on, don't. I'm not confirming that. Okay, I'm gonna say LAX. I don't believe that's right.
Final answer? Or you want to like...
Can I phone a friend? Can we do 50-50? Yeah, can you give me a clue?
Okay, so the artist sang one of these songs. One of it is correct and one of it is false.
Okay.
The artist sang a song called Pull Over, and the other option is that the artist sang a song called Caro.
LAX.
Correct. I was very, very surprised that you got that. I'm impressed.
So LAX is actually a very good friend of mine. I hosted his listening party in London 2022. And he sends me unreleased music all the time. So yeah, if I didn't know that, I'd be more surprised. So I'm happy I got that one.
And he will have been disappointed and you be like, yeah, Gracey's not a real one.
She's not a real one.
This is not a real one. So the next one, Patrick Nnaemeka Okorie.
Okoye is P square, right? You said
no, it's Okorie.
Okorie. Oh, okay. Patrick.
Yes.
Sorry, run the name by me again.
Patrick Nnaemeka Okorie. I have to use it to pronounce it the way it's really pronounced.
Are you Yoruba?
No, I'm Yoruba, but hey, once you're Nigerian, you can switch it. You can code switch to any of the tribes.
I mean, I'm Ibo and I'm Yoruba, so here we go.
Yeah,
okay,
perfect.
Patrick is such a...
Do you want a clue?
Please.
I'll give you. So this person, I would say, does more like the dance hall.
I know who it is. It's Patoranking. How did I not know that? Yeah,
wow.
It's Patoranking.
Just because he had Pats.
No. I knew
impressed.
it. I knew it. It was gonna be one of like 3 artists, but I knew it was Patoranking. There we go. Yeah. Thank you. Give me my points, please.
Yo, I'm definitely giving you points. 2 out of 2. We have 3 more. Who is Deborah Oluwaseyi Joshua? I'll give you a clue. The person's stage name is somewhere in there.
So unless it's Shay.
You're so brilliant. You're so brilliant.
Oh,
You're so brilliant.
okay.
I'm going to give you a Mars bar for this, or dairy milk or something.
Thank you.
Yeah, 3 out of 3. So 2 more.
That's so funny because I
Who
never
put this
knew
here?
Deborah. Shay, I'm going to call her. But like, hey, Deborah, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Number 4, let's
put
go.
this
You said
here
it's
for you.
easy. I'm ready.
Yeah, it's too easy. This is cheating.
Go on.
The first name is Ahmed. And then
Spell it murder.
You see.
Ahmed Abiola.
That's very wrong. Very wrong.
Akinbi, actually. Ahmed Abiola Akinbi. That's my artist.
Let me finish. So it's Ahmed Ololade. If you don't get this, I'm taking my chocolate back.
That's Ashake.
Yeah. That's too easy. Once you hit Ololade, you just be like, yo. All right. What's the last one? The last one is, this was a bonus point for you.
Mm-hmm.
British people would say Abiola, but it's actually Abiola Ahmed Akinbi.
Yeah, Bella Schmoder. I said that one.
Yeah. We just dashed you that one. So 5 out of 5. Gracey has proven herself to be powerhouse, knowledgeable person on afrobeats artists, and that really brings an end this podcast. I think I've really had a great time listening to you, educating myself, the marketing community, brands, artists on how to basically leverage pop culture trends in marketing, and how to combine that with brands to make consumers either aware or convert or change perceptions. And I think it's really enlightening, and it's been really a good time talking to you. So, final words?
Final words. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time.
Definitely.
I just wanted to quickly remind everyone that PR is all about storytelling. It's narrative driven, it's reputation management, it's media relations, it's brand journalism. And marketing really is the push for conversion to sales. So whether that's sales with merchandise, whether it's conversion to like streams and shares, or whether it's conversion to like show tickets, marketing is very conversion driven, whereas PR is more brand and narrative driven. And once you're able to get the right harmony and synergy between the two, you're really able to do an amazing campaign. The best artists have all year round PR. So whether they have something they're pushing or not, they're consistently in the headlines for being at basketball shows, or doing something witty, or being packed at a restaurant, or being seen with someone. So that when they're having to do the marketing to push whatever product they're releasing, they're not having to go from ground zero. The right person and the right artist and the right brand is able to tap into talent that mirrors their vision, their mission, and most importantly, their scope. And if you're able to tap into that, then you really are able to have an amazing campaign that looks at brand awareness, brand loyalty, and product placement. I've been Gracey Mae, and it's been amazing to be with you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gracie. Wise words from a distant woman. My last words, for everyone listening, we've been able to learn from Gracie on, how marketing and music are peas in a pod. What we do at Intense is help brands connect with Africans in the UK and globally, and also, global brands that want to get into Africa. It's things like this, knowledge of the culture, knowledge of the business, knowledge of the trends, that will help you connect with the people, and that will help you spur action. So if you want to get your brand to the doorstep of Africans in the UK, or you want to get into Africa, reach out to Intense. Of course, we'll put our details at the end of this podcast, and we'll be happy to help you. So that'll be it for me, Leye, today, and Gracie. Goodbye, and God bless.